Ah, oh, we're growing.
Well, it's not a very good camera.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
There you are.
To give you some background on the organisation, our organisation, and I'll hand to Angela McGregor to effectively take us through a demonstration of the software. So, and I assume everyone can see my screen there?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'll just, my agenda is very brief, run for 3 or 4 minutes. I'll race through some introductions, talk about our organisation history, our customers, briefly talk about our solution, how we support customers, and complete with the summary. So my name's Tony Tiflis. Angela McGregor is our Consulting Services and Support Manager. Both Angela and myself have been involved in the process of fulfilment with Flinders Ranges Council and the other South Australian customers that have elected to move off the LBS system, and we've been engaged with your organisation and the other organisations for almost 18 months now. So we're not new to your organisation and not new to the process, and it's been an interesting process for us to participate in. What we're going to show you today is what we call the Magic Cloud Platform. The Magic Cloud Platform is effectively the key modules of council operations and business. So we deliver all the finance requirements for council, we deliver the payroll and HR requirements, all of the statutory reporting requirements through our performance engine, online capability for things like service requests when you want to switch those on, mobile capability, all of the council regulatory modules, service requests, and also statutory document management. So a repository that complies with the South Australian disposal schedule and requirements. So we call that our Magic Cloud Platform. A bit of established in 1980, we're proudly celebrating 40 years of success and service to the local government marketplace. We're a privately owned organisation. We've been owned by the same 3 gentlemen that you see there, Jim and John Benson, for those 40 years. 2 of those, Jim and John, have technology and coding background, hence their interest in their establishment of 40 years ago. So we're a stable and conservative organisation. We're not a organisation or a 100-person business, but we're a very stable organisation. We've built a significant business across Australia and New Zealand. We're public sector focused. Most of our customers are in local government. We do have some customers in the health sector, and we have more than 550 customers using our software across Australia, New Zealand, and other markets. We do have a very long-term customer relationship focus, and many of our customers have been with us for more than 15, 20, 25 years. Our Australian platform customers, or customers that are using the software, this is excluding the South Australian sites that I'll talk about in a moment, include North Burnett Regional Council, which is about 2 hours west of Bundaberg in Queensland, Weipa Town Authority, Napperton Aboriginal Shire, Torres Shire in Queensland, Yass Valley in New South Wales, King Island in Tasmania. And about a year ago, we picked up Uniting Care in South Australia, in Adelaide, in South Australia. The good thing about those customers that are listed on that page are they're all about a similar size and shape to your organisation. So, they're not massive organisations. They do everything you do in their jurisdiction, and they're all similarly shaped to your organisation, and they're all using the software that Angela, my organisation, will show you in a moment. We also have 27 councils across New Zealand running the same software, so we are the dominant market vendor in New Zealand. From a South Australian perspective, our South Australian platform customers, these sites are coming off or have come off the LGS system, which is the system that you're currently operating at Flinders Ranges. The District Council of Coronavirus Murray is now live with our system. Kimber District Council is live with our system. Woodner District Council is live with our system. Peterborough District Council is going live on the 8th of June. The District Council of Streaky Bay is going live with the system on the 22nd of June. And from a Flinders Rangers Council perspective, we've discussed the late August, early September timeframe, which is yet to be finalised, but that's the timeframe in relation to your organisation. So those 6 councils have all selected our solution. 3 of them are live, and in a good way, you'll be the last cab off the rank. So we've learnt lots on the way through, and we'll make your transition a much, much easier one. That's just some logos on some of our customers, obviously across Australia and New Zealand that use our software in a platform sense, all of council operations. So we obviously have large organisations running our software and lots of small to medium councils across Australia and New Zealand. Our product, the Magic Cloud solution, as I mentioned earlier, the centrepiece of our solution is finance. We'll have a look at that in a little while when I hand to Angela. But all of the critical componentry that you'd expect to own and operate as a council is contained within our solution. And there'll be some things that you don't do in LGS today that we'll turn on for you in due course. And that will be a council decision to make in relation to when you want to do that. We are migrating all of the LGS across into our Magic Cloud or Magic software solution. Our Magic Cloud is a full finance and regulatory administration solution. It's delivered as a cloud offering, so it's delivered from the Amazon Web Service cloud. That's located in Sydney. It's a secure, safe public cloud environment. And it can be accessed securely from any web browser, and we'll go through that process with council in due course. Importantly, just to talk about support, our Magic software team is located in Melbourne. So we have a Melbourne office from an Australian perspective, and we have a New Zealand office, which is in Napier, and we have a very experienced and highly capable team. Our implementation methodology is affordable, it's fast. Our consultants, our implementation consultants, will be on site with council to do a pre-configuration check with you and set up. We'll then be on site pre-go live, and we'll also be on site after the go live event. So we're very hands-on to ensure that your council staff are adequately trained, supported and guided through this transition process, because these transition processes are typically once every 15 or 20 years. So we want to make sure we do it right. After go live, you're handed to our support help desk, which is manned by our own staff that answer the phone, that assist council as required moving forward. So we do effectively manage risk. And very importantly, we take a very mature data position. So we have what we call a data first migration process. So we take your current system, feed it into our solution, match it up with our database and our systems, make that available to your staff to test, to train, well and truly before go live. So that data first solution, which we've obviously practiced 3 times already at the 3 live sites in South Australia, is very, very important. It makes the transition to a new system much, much faster and easier. It's cost effective. We're using familiar data, real data. It simplifies testing and it makes training much, much easier. And I know that Eric has been in touch with several of the other customers that have gone live and sought their experience in the transition. So from our perspective, we believe that we'll deliver you a very effective go live and a very low risk at go live through that process. So 2 more slides for me before I hand to Hugh to take us through a 20-minute demonstration. We're a long-term relationship-focused organisation. We deliver fantastic software. We believe we're delivering council exceptional business value. We are very customer-centric in our approach, as our 3 other South Australian sites will attest. We are a stable, long-term, trusted business partner of the sector and wish to and look forward to commencing a relationship with the Flinders Regional Council. This is my last slide. This is a bit of a mission statement that John Benson, one of our directors, and he's proud of our organisation around, we are built on a foundation of honesty, trust and integrity as demonstrated by our many long-term customer relationships and the longevity of our staff commitment. So we are a very, conservative, well-managed and progressive organisation. So that's it from me as a bit of an update on who the company is. Are there any questions from the council before I hand over to Angela?
Yeah, if I might ask Tony, so the LGS Transition Councils are your first presence in South Australia?
Correct. Yeah, they're our first present for the platform. Within the platform, we have what we call a performance solution, which is a budgeting and reporting solution. That solution is installed in 10 or 11 councils in South Australia. Some quite large councils like the City of Playford, Onkaparinga City Council, Charles Sturts, and Port Augusta, and quite a few others as a budgeting and reporting only solution. So we have been in South Australia for about 15 years. But as far as the holistic local government platform, yes, that's right.
I might just also add, Mr. Mayor, if I may, the result. Tony, can you just confirm the total number of people using that budgeting module and some of the other modules in Australia? I believe there's over 300 now, isn't there?
Correct. Yeah. So the budgeting solution that is one of the sentiments of what you'll see when Angela demonstrates shortly is installed at well over 200 councils as a budgeting and reporting solution, and the document solution that you'll have a look at tonight is installed at over 100 councils. So we are a mature market vendor in those two components that we're bringing into council for this implementation. So yes, very much so. Well over 300 council customers across Australia, and well over 30 in New Zealand. Right, I might hand over to Angela. I'll stop sharing my screen and Angela can jump on and share her screen. And Angela, over to you.
Okay, thanks Tony. I'm hoping everyone can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, I might just also turn off my video. Just 1 second. Okay, so thank you. So this is the Magic Cloud platform. So I'm running this demonstration version of the platform using Chrome. So you can use any browser, internet, IE, doesn't matter what you choose. I just like Chrome. This is also running out of our AWS, so it was all delivered from the cloud. And thank you to Yes, North Burnett Regional Council and Uniting Care. They have lent me their data for demonstrations as well. So you'll see that throughout the demo. You'll see here I've landed on the reporting. So Tony was talking about incorporated inside of the platform. So you'll see here I've got a dashboard going on. So this allows me to pull through different information and display that data differently. So you can see I've got a profit and loss statement. I've got some graphs around my actuals versus balances. I can also do things like pull in purchase orders that I might need to approve. I might have service requests or customer requests that also need to be dealt with or escalated. I can have those presented as well. So I can have all of that data presented on a dashboard relevant to me. You'll also see over here I've got my menu search. So inside of here, this is where I have the ability to look at my favorites. You'll see here I've got some stars along some of those modules. These are the modules that will open up for me daily. So staff can start controlling what they see. The payroll administrator, for example, might only ever have payroll and maybe HR open. Just gives them the ability to control that, what they have access to as well. It also allows you with each of these tabs that navigation and ease of use across the product. So I can simply start clicking into each of those and navigating through. Inside of each of those modules as well, I have the ability to search, so I can come in and search each of those modules. And I've got some other icons here. So I just wanted to show you that throughout the platform, we have all that reporting functionality inside those modules as well. So we've got a little dashboard here inside of General Ledger that again is slightly different. I've got some other graphs, I've got some alerts, and the ability to start drilling down into reports as well. I've also got the full ability to be able to report out of any of those modules. So this browse icon allows me to come in and start using that data and drilling down, adding fields, presenting different reports and different information to different groups of people. You'll see just inside here, I thought I'd just show you can do simple things like come in and change my time series. So it now changes it to March, and each of those graphs have dynamically changed to reflect March as well. So it just gives you all that different functionality inside of those modules as well. What I thought I would also show you is inside of each of our searches, there are no requirement for symbols or anything like that. Alphanumeric will find anything inside of those modules. I've gone and searched for the names. I wanted to show you the customer database, or the NAR, if you're familiar with that. If I choose that module, it comes in and it launches me into that module. So it takes us into that inquiry mode. I'm just going to start searching within that module, and it presents me with where it finds that search. I'm just going to choose that record. And I might just fly these away so you get a bit more real estate. But you'll be able to see here that I can now see what is called our customer database, or our names. So everyone inside of Magic becomes a name. And what we do with those names is we try and pull through all that information we know. So for example, I've chosen a company, got some postal addresses, street addresses, contact details, got an ABN and a company number as well against that record. But then what I've got down here is I've got the ability to then get that single source of the truth. So really helpful for customer service staff at council. They can come in, use the names, search up that customer that they're looking for, and get that single source of the truth. I'm able to see that this customer has a creditor account, has a debtor account, has rating accounts, also has water. If you did animals, for example, it could have animals. If you did building development applications and permits and that type of information, we can link all that through to give you that view of this customer. So anywhere where we use this customer or name ID, we can be presented with that view. So you'll see, for example, here, I can also see that this account, or this debtor account, is currently overdue. So Magic also comes with a full debt management module, allows you to control the credit, look at 30 days over, do arrangements, have repayments, all that type of information. Again, really useful for customer service. They get that one view and they're able to see what's going on with that customer. There's some other really useful information around there. I can look at any historical accounts. So I can see that this customer has had other creditor accounts. If this customer had bought or sold properties within your area as well, I'd be able to see those historically. I can use flags. I can use associations. Where this is again really helpful is you can come through and associate accounts with other accounts. So I can come in and start looking at different ways to link this data. And again, it gives customer service that view that they might be able to look at one account and then say, oh, you've got some associations, and look at what's happening in the activity on those accounts as well. We've also got the ability here to have service requests. So there is a customer request module inside of Magic. So any requests that come through from this name or this ID will come through and present you with a view of those requests as well. Also over here on the right hand side is a tab that will be presented through all of the Magic modules. Gives you the ability to add notes. It has integration to our Magic documents, which I will also show you, and it also has the ability to show you a map. So where it finds a valid address, you can be presented with a map, putting your GIS links in here if that's what you wanted to do. I thought from here I would just show you some of the navigation around as well. So from here I can launch into each of those different accounts as well. So you see I've simply chosen that debtor number. It's brought me into that separate tab, again for ease of navigation around the product and into those different modules. And now it presents me with everything it knows about that record. So it's brought through that debtor information. I'll just give you a little look through so you can see some of that. Again, on the right hand side here, I've got the ability to have those notes. What I did want to show you is the integration back to Magic Documents. So anything that's created inside of Magic, so that would be your debtor statements, your debtor invoices, creditor remittances, pay slips, anything like that, you've got the ability to automatically link and map that into this Documents tab. Where that's very useful is I can come in now and start pulling through those statements. So it's presented me with a statement. You can go back, so anywhere where that's created inside of Magic, so going forward, you will be able to have all of these statements and invoices inside of the system that council staff can download, resend to customers, that type of information. You've also got the ability inside of these to start drilling into transactions. So I'm presented with a transaction view. Again, each of these links come off, and there's that invoice that I created for that debtor. So again, I can download this and resend it to the debtor if required. So I've got all that information stored within each of those modules. So just to go back to the names, again, I can simply click back into that tab and I'm back in that names module. I wanted to show you as well a rating record. So again, click on that. It's launched into that module and it's presented me with everything it knows about that record. So we've got links through to everything. You've got your customer relationships, you've got your property and parcel relationships, you've got all your descriptions around rates, evaluations, so this will be your land and your capital value. Your rate types, these are often referred to as your factors or your charges, so these are all your charges that appear on your notices. You can also do this year and next year, so I could be showing both if I had put next year's in. I can have a quick view of any of those financial information that's going on as well. So again, really easy for customer service to come in and see that I'm up to my third instalment, and to clear this account, this customer would have to pay $967. I've also got full access to an archive version of that instalment. So again, I can go in and look at that version that's been archived and see that it's there and send that off to the customer if I wanted to. You've also got some information around the instalment and interest dates, some property debt information if you did property debt. Water, we can also link off if you do water. You can either have water as an individual module, or some people will add that water as a rate type or factor to their rating notice. Stores all the history as well, so I can go back and look at all those land values or capital values that are there. And then it does present me with that same ability to come in and have the notes, the documents and the maps. So inside the documents as well, I did quickly just want to show you that you have the ability to come in and add a document from anywhere. So I can come in and simply add a document and go done. That's now there, and I can now view that document as well to that record and lives with that record as well. So very handy if you were doing in general ledger and needed journal working papers or something like that, you can start attaching that information in there as well. All of this stuff that I'm showing you as well is controlled by the system administration. So you could control, or council can control, who can have access to what and at what level as well. So if I wasn't allowed to look at rates, I wouldn't be able to see it. So I couldn't see that information. I did also just want to take you through and show you some of the menu structure and what council would be getting. So Tony put up a little picture before of everything. So there is our finance modules. So council will be getting banking and cash and debtors, direct debits, all that information as well. Project accounting and purchase orders. We have a full online purchase order system, and we have stores and water. It does of course come with payroll as well, so you get HR and payroll, and there's different ways of collecting time as well. So council can choose to do online time recording, but we can also choose to have the paper time sheets, and we key those in and start collecting those costs. I did quickly just show you the reporting, but what I did want to launch into is show you the budgeting as well. So Tony touched on the fact that our budgeting and our reporting application is across a number of councils. I just wanted to show you that with the vision of the cloud, you get the full budgeting as well. I have to drill down to a cost centre to be able to show you that. But you'll see here, I've got that full budgeting ability as well. I can come in and put 1200 in here and very quickly just show you that it's monthly. It's phased that out at $100 over the year, and it shows you that I've changed it as well and when I did it. So, and there's a whole lot more that goes with this budgeting process. You can control people by departments. Once it's approved, you can't go back and change it, all of that information. But it's just to show you that it is available here inside of the platform. Magic Council, this is where you'd have your cemeteries, any of your licenses or permits that you might choose to use, property certificates, and maybe if you did local laws or sundry infringements as well. Your service requests, so that's your full customer request module. Here is Magic Documents. So you'll see here, it's brought me into a landing page again. So this is your full document management or your records management module. It knows who I am, so it's already put me in here. So you can do some really cool stuff on this landing page as well. You can have message boards, you can have alerts coming through. But I did just want to show you that it does come with a full structure. So I have the ability to drill down, again, all controlled by security, and council would control this all themselves. But I can come in and click on a document, view that document, and I've got all that full document management access here. Look at your properties, set your security, your retention and disposal. It's got workflow and tasks associated to it as well. So I could have a document that I have to review and then workflow it to Tony, and I can create a task for him to do that as well. Full, just to show you, if I can just click on the control panel, this is where council can come in and control all their users and other information. So not something you need Magic support for, you can come in and manage this information yourself. Lastly, I did just want to quickly show you the administration and show you inside of here that this is where you'd come in and council can control all of those users as well, and the access each of those have. So it is simply a tick box, click on and off, and save that information. So that seemed like a very quick overview, but that is just to show you Magic and what that cloud platform looks like and what council will be hopefully taking.
Very good.
Yes. Impressive.
Good.
Any questions on the system? Obviously, we briefed the team, the council, you know, on the solution, and we can't wait to get started. You know, I think as Eric has pointed out, going last is probably a good thing out of a sequence of 6. We find out that every council has its peculiarities, which you'd expect. We are in a rhythm, and we're looking forward to continuing rolling through Peterborough and Streaky Bay, and following an endorsement from council with your organisation.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Tony.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We will depart and allow you to get on with the important business of council. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Andrew and
Tony.
Tony.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Angela.
Okay. Well, that does look like a fairly comprehensive and powerful tool. So I dare say it will be an interesting transition, but should help them give us a bit better handle on things in years to come. So we now have a full attendance of members. Thanks, Councillor Wolford, for joining us. Does anyone have a conflict of interest to declare in anything in tonight's agenda having had regard to that agenda? We'll move on to the confirmation of the minutes, pages 9 to 17. We've got quite a few minutes to get through, but the ordinary meeting, 21st of April. Someone happy to move that they are a true and correct record? Thank you.
Yeah, Julian. Yeah.
Julian, sorry, was seconder.
I'll second that.
Councillor Flint, thank you. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or discussion on that? No dissent, I'll call it carried. Thank you. The confidential minutes, which relate to the software program contract and have been circulated through the extranet. Someone happy to move them, please?
I'll move that.
Councillor Taylor, sorry. Who was second?
I'll second that.
Councillor Flint.
Councillor Smith, I got there. Again, no Councillor Taylor, second Councillor Smith. If there's no questions, comments, I'll put that motion. And the council budget workshops, first one on the 7th of May. Minutes have been circulated, nearly 10 minutes, but again, someone happy to move them, please.
Just if you change the 4.14 motion, that's
Yep.
that only thing that's a bit of a type over error there. There's minutes of the ordinary meeting, the council. So just as that's I'll move it if that's
With that amendment, do we have a seconder, please?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you. There's no further questions, comments, or discussion. If you're over, I'll call that carried. Thank you. And the council workshop, 14th of May. Do we have a move and second, please?
yeah, that's the one that needs to be changed.
that. Yeah, I thought we were moving those both together. Sorry.
Oh, right. Hello. If you're happy to move that one, I'll put you down again. Do we have a seconder for that one?
Yes, I'll
Councillor Flint, again, thank you. Again, any questions, comments, or discussion? I'll call that carried. Thank you. Okay, business horizon, we've got officer action plans, page 24. Update. Is there anything in those action plans that any members wish to raise at this time? Not, we'll move into members' reports. The mail report is provided there for your information. Was good news about the bush tucker grant, and obviously, you know, the budget we're setting is the biggest and most important bit of our year. So it's been a busy month, but I think things have gone pretty well. The coronavirus situation is easing, and hopefully we can get a bit of kick-starting of our regional economy again, which would be most welcome all round, I think. So, yeah, if there's no questions regarding that, we'll move on to members' verbal reports. So we'll start with Councillor Flint. You're in the top corner of my screen.
Okay. Yes, the audit committee, the 2 workshops, and also the local grants panel, which was before the audits committee, if I remember rightly, meeting.
The minutes are in here, so we'll deal with that. Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I had the 2 workshops, budget workshops, on the 7th of May and the 14th of May. the Works Reference Committee on the 12th of May. And that's all I've got.
Councillor Taylor?
Just the 2 budget meetings via Zoom.
Thank you. Councillor Hibble?
Yes, similar, just the 2 budget workshops on the 7th and the 14th.
Councillor Wolford?
Budget workshop on the 14th.
Yeah. Councillor Reynolds?
Audit committee on the 5th of May, the budget workshops on the 7th and the 14th, and the community grants panel, which I thought was on the 7th.
Councillor Anderson? You're muted there, Councillor Anderson.
That's better.
Yep.
Yeah, so the 7th and the 14th for the budget meeting, the works committee meeting, and 2 site meetings at Warren's Gorge.
Thank you. And Councillor Rubinick? You're on mute there, Councillor Rubinick.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay. I just had the budget workshop on the 14th.
Thanks very much. Okay, someone happy to move, please, that Mayor on Councillor reports be received, contents noted.
I'll move that.
So Taylor?
I'll second.
Councillor Flint, thank you. Coming pattern, if there's no dissent, I'll call that carried. No, thank you. Okay, questions with and without notice, we have none. Delegations, deputations and petitions, we have none. There is a notice of motion, but I would seek the leave of the meeting to perhaps deal with that after our budget deliberations, because it is attempting to prescribe council's actions within that sphere. I'll talk to it then, but I think it's more appropriately dealt with after we deal with our budget deliberation. With dealing with that after the budget discussion?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, okay.
Councillor Anderson, given that you're proponent of the motion, are you comfortable with that? Sorry, you're on mute again, Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, well, that's a very quick one, so I don't know whether I've had time to even think about it, Peter.
Are you comfortable for us to deal with this motion later in the meeting after we've dealt with the budget?
Well, I think the outcomes are going to be the same. But if you're deciding on budget, you're not approving the budget today, so it doesn't really matter.
No, we're adopting a draft budget for consultation.
Yeah. But the point of this was to guide the budget deliberations, that was all.
Of the budget deliberations, which I think is perhaps inappropriate and regardless a bit superfluous.
Well, I disagree with that because it prescribes it with the agreement of the council. If that for that, and you move on those motions. I'm not quite getting the argument, Peter.
All right, straight up.
But it sounds like we outvoted on it anyway, but that's so be it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come back to that one shortly. The council committees. So we have finally had an audit committee meeting, long time coming. So that was held last week before 5th of May, so a couple of weeks ago. It's of note that very specifically within that from our auditors, very specifically suggesting their observations indicate council not currently operating in a financially sustainable manner. That's a pretty big stick to be including in their audit opinion. Council and our independent chair have grounds to consider that it's not entirely accurate, but when we do look at our forward 10 years and forecast of deficit budgets, that is arguably a reasonable position for them to take, and it also is a bit of professional protection for them, because this is the last year that they will be our auditors under the current regime. They get a 5-year run that concludes this year, and we'll be appointing other auditors. So I guess there's some prudence in them at least putting that on the table if someone else is coming in behind them. Regardless, the minutes for that have been circulated and provided, and I'm happy to move them having been there. Do we have a seconder, please?
Yes.
Councillor Reynolds, thank you. That aside, did any members have any other questions or comments relating to the audit committee minutes?
Yeah, I have in relation to what your comment was about sustainability. Is there any actual definition of what sustainability is? So is there something that we've got on paper for us to aim to as a council to go, well, to be sustainable, we've got to reach X, Y, and Z? Because I hear this all the time, but I actually have never seen it.
I think he's told us quite specifically that the basis for that is that across the forward 10-year estimates, there isn't a surplus budget forecast.
But isn't it the fact that we will always operate in deficit regardless, because we don't get enough rates to cover our costs, and we never will?
No, because we play a part in the balance sheet.
Yeah, that's coming up, but I just don't know, what the benchmark is for council to become sustainable. And if I can have that, and I think if all councillors can have that, I've got something to look at, because we're never going to have, if the definition of sustainability is that we don't have a deficit budget, well, we're never going to be sustainable ever, because we rely on external funding.
Mr. Mayor, may I respond?
Yeah, better.
So, Councillor Anderson, on page 81 of tonight's papers, you'll see that there's a page there, number of ratios down that page. Now, what the definition of financial sustainability is never that clear cut, but what we're aiming for are certain benchmarks with respect to those financial ratios. And those benchmarks have been set. Now, basically, it's not just your operating surplus or deficit position, it's also your ability to renew your assets when they come due. And there's a formula in there, which is basically the amount of renewals council has over the number of renewals required under the asset management plan. Now, that's a very key ratio that needs to be improved, that was identified by the auditors. And there's also the net financial liabilities ratio and a few other financial ratios which identify the amount of cash on hand versus liabilities, things like that. So there are a number of clear ratios that actually will help assist in identifying what is financially sustainable. But what at this point in time, and bearing in mind the comment that the auditor has made, what really needs to happen is we need to develop within our long-term financial plan over the next year, or 6 months to a year, we need to develop a bit of an action plan to address those ratios specifically so that we can move to that. And obviously have a few workshops with councillors to delve into what those financial sustainability mean for us. Now, yes, that does not actually mean we need to have a surplus position each and every year, and you can have small deficits and still be sustainable. But what that will mean is that your actual asset renewals would be lower than your depreciation in that particular case. And that's quite possible where you have a declining population. So but yeah, so there's a number of things we'll work through, and we'll develop a bit of a plan to address the comments from the auditor over the next 6 months and actually work through that with councillors and trying to actually get to financial sustainability or close as we can get, recognising that we'll need to look at other revenue, we'll need to look at innovative cost savings, and we'll need to look, we can't just focus on rate increases, we need to look at those other elements firstly. So there will be a bit of a plan developed to address that. Each of the other councils I've worked in and has had the same issue, and we've had to develop a plan. We've made significant improvements over 2 or 3 years. It's just going to take.
Can I just say something there? I think Councillor Anderson too is possibly examining the word sustainability without any targets or rates. So I mean, what I would be looking for too is that the ability to be maintained sustainability at a certain rate or level. I mean, it doesn't. Do you think that we have to put something there as a target to say that will make us sustainable, or you can have a loss if you want to, but still remain sustainable. But how the sustainability has to be factored and visible.
So, the ratios have actually been set in terms of what council should be aiming to achieve.
Yeah.
So there's very clear guidelines on that have been set across the industry, and there's very clear things to focus on.
Yeah.
Now, one council could argue, and obviously each council is in a unique position, and not all those benchmarks are appropriate to each council. And a council that's doubling in size in 10 years is going to have an entirely different asset management plan renewal ratio compared to a council that's not going to double in the next 10 years. Or so really it depends on the asset management plan, long-term financial plan, and interpreting your community against those benchmarks. But those benchmarks are very clear, are well set, and the auditors looked at them and looked at our projections and said, there needs to be an improvement, and that will require significant thought over the next 6 months. It's not something that we're easily going to address in the short term. It's going to take a plan that needs to be developed over and implemented over the next 2 to 3 years, and that's going to require things other than rate increases. It's going to require cost cutting of things that we don't need, and it's going to require potentially looking at other revenue sources. There's a lot of work in this area that needs to be done. And in my honest opinion, I don't believe council is unsustainable, but the current ratios that we had at the end of last financial year, given the significant amount of grant funding received that was focused on new assets, skewed those results, and the long-term financial plan hasn't really had long-term financial strategy that accompanies that to actually drive us to financial sustainability. And that's what we need. We need that broader strategy of how to get to those benchmarks over a reasonable period of time, because there's only a certain amount of people obviously accept in terms of revenue increases, rate increases, things like that. So there needs to be a lot of thought to go into that, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay, thanks.
There's no other member discussion. It was moved by myself and seconded Councillor Reynolds that the minutes of the audit committee be receiving contents noted and recommendations therein. Once comfortable with that, we'll call that carried and move on. Okay, thank you. Section 41, committees. The only one we've got here is Works Review Reference Committee from last week. Happy to move the Works Review minutes, please.
Yeah, I'll move that way.
Smith, you have a seconder?
Yeah.
Sir Anderson, thank you. Any members have any questions, comments or discussion relating to the Works Review Reference Committee minutes? If not, it's moved and seconded. We'll call that carried unless there's any dissent. Section 41 committee minutes at this time. Section 43 committees, the Legatus Group will be meeting at 5th of June, a couple of weeks away. That was to have been hosted in our region, but under the current circumstances, it'll be a Zoom meeting. So we'll still get to have a little chat to them about what's going on here, but we won't have members from other councils coming to visit us. Section 13, correspondence. Correspondence for information is provided on the extranet, and members are encouraged to keep abreast of that. So is someone happy to move please correspondence for information, March, April, contents noted.
Yeah. Well,
Yep,
Councillor Hipwell, thank you.
I'll second those.
Councillor Ribnick? Annie, was that?
Yep,
Thank you. Sorry, I missed that bit.
that's all right.
No dissent, we'll call that one carried. Correspondence for decision, there is nil. So, in the officers' reports, section 14, Development and Environmental Health Officers' report is provided there for your information. Information in that report, there's a recommendation there. The council note the information in the development officer's report. So move and second to there, please.
Yes.
Yep, I've moved that.
Councillor Flint, Councillor Ribnick. Everyone's happy to call that carried. Okay. Environmental Health Officers report, page 43-4. Once again, that's for noting, and there's a recommendation that someone move and second that, please.
I'll move that.
Councillor Taylor, thank you.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Councillor Flint, thank you. Again, if there's no questions or comments, we'll call that carried. Okay. 14.2, Director of Finance and Admin report. And they commence with the usual reports. The council note contents of bank reconciliation, transfer to and from reserves, and statutory finance reports for the month. Someone has to move and second that, please.
Yeah, I'll move it.
Councillor Flint.
I'll second it.
Brilliant, thank you. The reports are provided. The members have had a chance to have a look. Does anyone have any questions or comments relating to them? No. All right. We'll call that carried unless there's any dissent. HR officers report. Again, this is for noting. Someone happy to move and second the HR officer report, please.
Hipwell, hold on.
Thank you, Councillor Hipwell.
Councillor Reynolds.
Councillor Reynolds, thank you. Any questions, comments, or discussion from members relating to that report?
Mr. Mayor, if I may just add one thing.
Yes.
I've been in contact with SAET, the South Australian Employment Tribunal, regarding the approval of our outdoor enterprise bargaining agreement. I've been advised that we should receive approval in the next 2 days. There's been a few delays on that. Allow us then to recruit to the 2 team leader positions, as well as to the remaining vacant positions, which will provide us with a stable workforce going forward, which is excellent.
Update. Other questions, comments, or discussion? I'll call that carried unless there's anyone dissenting. Thank you. Droughts and Grant Support Officers report. Is someone happy to move that report, please?
I'll move that.
Do I have a second there?
Yep, I can second that.
Thank you, Councillor Ribnick. Members have any comments or questions relating to that? Obviously, there's been some good news with the grant for the grants funding. We've got a couple of others in, but yes, with a bit of rain about, hopefully a bit less call on other services. Any questions or comments?
I've got a question. It's got here that the acquittal for some of these projects is the 31st of May. Are we going to hit that target as getting all those projects completed by that day, i.e. the gymnasium and the Hawker Airport refueling? Will that be completed by those dates?
The Hawker gym would be completed by that date. based on our current advice. Also, we would have by that stage expended the amount for that grant in terms of acquittal. That means that'll be fine. But we will be basically complete by the 31st of May, and the refueling facility, I believe, will also be finished at the 31st of May. So we're expecting that there's very minor things left to do with respect to the refueling facility. The electrician was there in the last week. I believe we're only waiting the fuel providers, a little bit of work on their side, and we'll be done. So we're very, very close.
Excellent.
So
Thank
all
you.
indications with those are that we will. There may be a few small things that carry over that don't really affect the grant or would have been decided later on. Potentially for Warren Gorge, there may be one or two small things that carry over after the fact. And there's also a list of items that are for future rounds with respect to Warren Gorge, but they're not part of the actual, the applied for project. So there will be a few things that carry forward. For example, the Hawker Gym, we've got the actual window for the tennis, but the projects themselves, as they're applied for, will be done by 31 May. Every indication that it will.
And the only other question I've got is the latest round that we put him under the drought funding. The current one, is there any tentative data when we'll know whether we got those grants or not?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have been in contact with the actual grant funding provider, and we actually followed up to determine what the delay was in getting them approved. We've been advised that it's sitting with the minute waiting sign off, and it's expected that it'll be signed off in a bulk batch. And this was last week. I was advised it'll be in the next week or two. I'm expecting later this week or early next week.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
That's what we've been told by the actual person that's been assessing the grant. So.
That was moved Councillor Clinton, second Councillor Rubinick. If there's no further questions or discussion, we'll call that one carried unless any members of dissent there.
Okay.
1424, business relief under coronavirus circumstances. So there's a bit of a report there on some other areas that council have identified that we can provide support to businesses in our area in recognition of the hardship around, particularly around coronavirus as opposed to drought, I suppose. Removing fees for town entrance, hoop signs, information bay advertising, A-frames and footpath trading, mobile food vending. So just some other council fees that assist businesses by waiving to reduce costs for them in the coming year. A bit of a summary there of anticipated costs, but
with this one. Okay.
Is someone happy to move that recommendation in the first instance?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Rubinick. Do either of you wish to speak to the motion moving? Okay. Councillor Reynolds.
Okay, there's a couple of things. Just through the chair, I was just wondering, Councillor Anderson, point number 3, was that in reflection, would this interact with this motion at all on your notice of motion? Not notice, sorry. Council consider all options for rates and other relief to alleviate. Would that interact with any of the motions we're pushing here at the moment?
Yeah, it will interact with it. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, it's not the only things that council can do, but it's certainly some of them.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing is, it's not a question. It is probably the language we're using when we're saying 0 rate increase. It is very misleading. I'm just wondering if there's somewhere that we could sort of be a little bit more specific that it's actual the rate income that council is receiving is not going to increase by anything. And just change that wording a little bit that way that we are not misleading people to think they are not going to get a rate increase because most people either get a rate increase or a decrease, depending on how lucky they are. But I just think when we say zero rate increase, we are misleading the public a bit.
Terminology and likely assumption was discussed at the second workshop.
I'm not aware of that.
So I don't know how we're phrasing it at this stage, but yeah, we are aware of it. Have you got any recommendations on wording?
Well, I was just wondering whether the rates income zero increase. Or something like in that thing that's sort of it's more specific, that it's income coming in of the rates income is not going to increase, and that's just a suggestion I have.
Julian here, can I just ask a question there? Is that what when we discussed in reference to valuations, where somebody's rates might go down?
Yes.
So that's what you're addressing now, is it? So do you want that to be if somebody's rate valuation goes up, their rates will go up.
But if we're just going out there saying it's zero rate, I know that there'll be press releases and we will be selling this as well. I'm just thinking anybody reading it now, as it is, will think, oh, good, I won't get a rate increase. But if we say rate income,
Zero increase in net rate income is probably simple and clear enough.
Yeah.
Does address that without writing a paragraph about it.
Yeah. But if I may, if somebody does get it is subject to valuation.
Yes.
Subject to valuation and adopted rates in the dollar. There's a few things at play.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway. That spreadsheet we looked at.
Yeah, we did talk about it. Yeah.
There was about a 6% increase in rural land values and virtually no change in commercial and residential. So, you know, that's where there'll be play.
The farmers.
While we're talking about it, what's the sense of members? Are we comfortable with referring to it as no net rate increase, income increase?
How do we know that we're going to get a no net increase? Because the valuations haven't. It's quite possible we might actually get a net increase compared to last year. So we can't say we don't know.
Well, we do because we set the rates.
But if land values go up, then people will pay. Could have Councillor Anderson saying, I think, is that we could actually get more money if all the land values go up.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, what we will do, Councillor Anderson and Councillor Taylor, is we'll actually do the rate modelling for the final cents in the dollar as late as we can, which will get it as close as absolutely possible. But arguably, if there are valuations changes throughout the year, or between the date we do the modelling and the date we do the levying, there is a potential that there could be an increase. But generally, the valuations are done by 30 June to allow councils to do that. But yes, there is an opportunity potentially to have very close to 0%, either way. So we will be very careful with the wording we use, and I do apologise. That's my wording in there, and I didn't consider it because it wasn't in the resolution. But I do note that people will be thinking a 0% increase over, on their rates notice, and that will certainly reasonably consistent. There will be some that have gone down significantly and some that have gone up significantly, particularly ones that have been sold in the last year or had properties purchased or sold right next to them. So we will be very careful of the way we actually do the press release, as well as the actual, obviously, in-person meeting that we'll have, over Zoom meeting that we'll have with the community, and the information we put around that, as well as the information with the rates notice. The other thing we'll be particularly focusing on is the change in the NRM levy and to the landscape levy as part of that. We also, as discussed at the workshop, will work on some wording for councillors so that the councillors can explain when they get the question what the difference is, and we'll also pass that to our customer service staff to ensure that they've got an easy, to explain response to that. I do apologise. We will be more mindful in future reports just to make that clear, Councillor Reynolds.
But my issue with this is that historically, forever and a day, council has announced a rate rise of whatever percent, 2.1% or 2.3 or 4.8 or whatever. Now, we haven't made any changes to those protocols and that historic practice based on the fact that somebody might get a higher than a 4.6% rate rise, which happens all the time. So I don't see why we're doing it now. We're breaking with not only what we've always done, and are we then going to do it next year and say, well, we're going to have a 2.1 rate rise, but in fact, that may not be the case for everybody, blah, blah, blah. And we don't know because of what's coming. We've done our modelling, but we're not too sure. So whilst I see the argument, and I put it up last, I asked the question at the meeting the other day to make sure that people are clear about this. I don't think we should break announcing our actual rate rises or nil rate rise or whatever, based on an alternative argument which we've never used before.
There's potential for greater. Sorry, Councillor Reynolds.
Yeah, I mean, we are coming across as the good guys that we're doing this zero rate increase, and we're coming across as the good guys as doing that, and then people get their rate notice and go, they lied. That is probably one of the things. Not too many people would look at their rate notice and work out whether it was 2% or something. But if that was the case, why not a change now and go into the future like that?
I don't know anything else that does it in the whole state. I mean, they just announced that they're going to raise their rates by X amount. I think in this case, based on the fact that we've got COVID and we're doing this for the good reason, the simple explanation that we can make, as we discussed at the last meeting, was that we're putting a broad 0% rate rise, a broad 0% rate rise, and council doesn't have a choice about whether the valuation goes up or not, and there will be possibly a 5% or 10%, depending on the modelling, people that may get affected. And we just need to explain that to people, but I don't think we need to go and change the whole process.
I think given that we're talking about zero, there's much more grounds, much more scope for no increase in rate income as opposed to no increase in rates is a simple and justifiable minor amendment in that space. And if we've got some FAQ type language around how that works for people who are on the wrong side of the ledger when it all falls out, I think that would be good.
Mr. Mayor, the only issue is that if we do get revaluations throughout the year and it changes the amount of the levy, we may run into the actual issue with the conflict then with the resolution. So we'd actually have to levy potentially at a lower rate, which I wouldn't suggest. I can come up with some wording to make sure that we meet the requirement of a general 0% increase while not limiting ourselves to a 0% rate income increase overall. I can circulate that wording as part of that budget process, but there is a bit of an issue there in terms of potentially receiving either additional assessments. There might be some subdivisions, etc., which then may create an issue. So we have to work on the wording a little bit, if that's all right.
Okay.
I'm happy for that to happen.
Well, the motion we've got before us relates to the business relief in relating to fees and charges. Removal of what fees and charges we think we can, and in line with the existing moratorium on debt collection and fees and charges related to that. So that's the motion that's before us at the moment. It was moved Councillor Fenton, seconded Councillor Rubin. Discussion got a bit off track there, but it is related to this, it is relevant, and we can revisit it if we don't think we're on top of that.
Yeah.
The 1424 has been moved, Councillor Flint, seconded Councillor Rubin. Is there any further questions, comments, or discussion relating to that? Not. Call that carried. No members dissent? Thank you. 14.25, this is where it gets serious. Adoption of the draft annual business plan, long-term financial plan, fees and charges and rating policy for public consultation for the 2021 financial year. And this is, you know, where it is relevant to be considering language around that if we think so. So there's a recommendation there. Council pursuant to section 123 of the Local Government Act approving principal draft plan, advertised in the Flinders News. Set aside an hour at the beginning of the council meeting in June and hold and publicise a community information session to be held via Zoom. Seek some registrations via Zoom, which is proposed to be held on the 9th of June at 6:30. Someone happy to move that, please?
I'll move that.
Councillor Taylor, do I have a second?
I can second.
Councillor Reynolds, thank you. So this is the big one. The draft budget and business plan have been considered at a couple of workshops. We've been reasonably consistent for some months, certainly through those two workshops, about what council wants to see in the coming year, particularly around the rating impact on our community, but also in a year of some consolidation, getting some projects which have been hanging around for a while completed and finalised, and having a works program that we've got the capacity to meet. So I think, you know, the work that has been done on that budget gives us those. It's been a reasonably straightforward process this year, particularly given the consensus around amongst council members about, you know, what we're trying to do for the community in these circumstances. Do you have anyone like to speak, please?
Yeah, I may just on this one. I've had a bit of a brainwave.
Good.
So, just to confirm, we're not changing the rates in the dollar, is that correct?
The rates in the dollar get set to raise the required revenue according to our budget when we know what the valuation is. So
When we know the valuation.
Yeah, so each year the rate in the dollar is set to manage the impact across the various sectors, which are primarily rural production, residential and commercial. You know, the last number of years we've been setting them the same. So that's what the modelling work is to mitigate the impact of any spikes in some of those areas. And as noted on that spreadsheet from the second workshop, there's about a 6% increase in rural valuation. How widespread that is across properties would have to be further detailed, but both the Quorn and Hawker areas had about a 6% increase in rural. So that would imply that there will be some minor increase in rates in the dollar for residential and commercial and a minor decrease in rates in the dollar for rural, so that we are looking at about a zero across all three areas. Answer the question, sorry.
Yeah, it does. So there's no use of putting in the fact that we were going to have a 0% rate rise on rates in the dollar, because that's not going to be true.
No, unfortunately not.
No, okay. Oh, well, brainwave lost on the beach.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, the wording that's used is that the average rate increase will be 0%.
Thank you.
Ah, yes, good.
Yeah, okay, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Good one.
that's perfect. Yep.
Yeah, change of one word. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move Councillor Taylor and Councillor Reynolds. We should all be fairly familiar with those documents by now.
Yep.
If there's no other questions or comments, I'll put that motion. Is everyone comfortable with that?
Yep. Yep.
Obviously, that will be put out for public consultation and be promoted, and we'll have a workshop to see how the community feel about it in a few weeks. So, Eric. 14.3 Director of Works report, page 177. That's a fair bit further down.
Page 177.
Yeah. Consolidated projects list, the major projects report. Works Review Committee considered this last week. There's a bit of work still going on a couple of those. Some stabilisation. We're looking at developing a properly scoped program for the hall stabilisation, because the work that has previously been done on that can't be located, and the first bit of that is the town hall and courthouse here in Quorn, and Mace Engineering are currently doing that. Underpinning the toilet block in the town hall is considered as necessary by current inspections. The CWA building cracks is red, and that sort of on hold while we determine the long-term future of that building, given that the Foresters Hall is about to become vacant with the construction of the new gym in Hawker. Cornoval sprinkler system upgrade, that's dependent on a current grant application. And the streetscape project, similarly, we've got Oxygen doing some state work for us, and that will be grant funded, the first stage of application there. Roads to recovery, construction and sealing work down Foster Street, Anstey Road. The design work's been done and tenders are currently being sought, I believe, Eric?
Yes, they are.
That's tender at the moment. The leaf vacuum sweeper, we're going to borrow a unit from Mount Remarkable. Obviously, cleaning up leaves in the streets is a reasonably labour-intensive and big issue, but as discussed, the vacuums that we've had previously, the staff don't think make it more efficient. So there was an inclusion of that in the budget last year. It was sort of deemed not necessary, but we'll borrow one from there and see how it goes. And microchip scanner, we've got sufficient microchip scanners. So that's the red for that report as discussed at the Works Review meeting. Is someone happy to move that report, please?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
I
move.
can-
Go on.
Councillor Taylor.
Yes, thank
Okay. With that brief update, are there any other questions from members relating to the contents of that report?
It's not a question, it's a comment. With the defibrillators that were installed around Hawker, the public, the community comment extremely well received. So I'd just like to pass that on to the council, that it has been acknowledged by the community up here and very well received that they've been installed.
Thank you. There's nothing else. I'll put that motion. The council note the information in the motion project. There's no dissent. That carried. Thank you. CEO's report. At the beginning of that, we get the information in that report. Someone happy to move that recommendation, please?
Yeah, well,
Well, have a second.
yes, I'll second it.
Oh, excuse me.
Sorry, is there any dissent? That's easy. Thank you. So I'll let Eric speak to that report if anyone's got any questions. There's a reasonable list of meetings and attendances. All happy? Okay, community grants panel recommendation 1442 1896. And community grants panel, which considered the community submissions.
Can I just ask a question through the chair on that one?
Certainly, Councillor Smith.
In regard to part D of that, where Andrew Berry, $2,200 for the purchase of 8 reusable Christmas decorations to be attached to power poles for December. I take it they're SA Power Networks poles. Do we need to seek permission to attach those decorations to their poles?
Yes, we do, Councillor Smith, and it is currently with SA Power, and we have lodged an application. If the application is not approved, they would need to be affixed to something else, but the actual application has been lodged. There has been another application lodged in the last period of time, which was actually denied, which was the actual Stovey pole art that was denied. So there is a risk of that, but I do believe they can be attached to to other areas if required.
Yeah.
The Corn Mercury have been recommended for support for their freight costs. When we first received a request from the Mercury for support along those lines, and obviously it's good to see that they've now come through the community grants process to formalise that, but the was generally about the same. Is there a reason that they're different? Is it the number of copies that are freighted around, or? Yes, thank you. Andy nodding there. So that is related to the number of copies they get. Apparently, we had previously been allocating approximately the same amount to them, I believe. So that's fine. Okay, so the community grants.
Sorry, can I just say one of those items there with the DFIB for Pitchy Ritchie Rail? They were given a payment or gifted from the crafts shop in First Street. I think it was $1,500 or $2,000 to go to the purchase of a DFIB. So I don't know. I haven't followed up to see if that's been actually expended and purchased. I'll need to check with Modris about that.
Yeah, perhaps provides feedback. So, someone happy to move those recommendations, please?
I'll move that way.
Councillor Smith. If there's no further questions or discussion from members, we'll call that carried. Everyone happy? Thank you. Okay, before we go into confidence, sorry, we've got Councillor Anderson's notice of motion, which we deferred until after the budget deliberations. So there's a notice of motion from Councillor Anderson that Council plans for and manages a zero rate increase overall for the year. Part 2, that Council restricts any borrowing or loans except for emergency purposes or as specifically approved by Council on a case-by-case basis. Elected members be encouraged to donate all the yearly increase in member allowance to Council for the year, and the Council consider all options for rate and other relief to alleviate cost pressures on businesses affected by COVID-19, unless those businesses have already received rate relief under other Council policies. I have some concerns about having a motion put to Council that effectively prescribes the function of Council in managing the affairs of the Council and the community. I consider it fairly three of those issues.
I agree.
Formalising a motion at this. However, the way they are worded is not ultra vires. It's not legal for Council to consider in that format. So, Councillor Anderson, I would imagine that you wish to move your motion.
I'll amend the first one, if I may, by adding one word: average zero rate increase.
Okay. Is there a seconder?
May I just ask for a bit of clarification on point 4? So if we were to say, when you say other relief, are we talking outdoor dining, etc., like that, or is that what you're discussing there?
Make other things in the motion point 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was looking at all options, and I think that we've, as I said last meeting at the budget meeting or whatever it was, you know, in my opinion, I don't think we're looking at everything. We've got a few, and it looks good. But you know, my focus is really nailing down some of the savings that we can make, some of the cost reductions, and whilst the budget's good, I've got some criticism towards me, obviously, for you know, for continuing on about making savings. I accept those criticisms. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I think our job is to continue to look for savings to fit in with our long-term plan and make us at Strange Birds sustainable. So that last one was just to continue to look at other avenues where we can make savings, not be satisfied with what we've just done.
Well, Harrison.
Well,
So the motion's been moved and seconded. I'll just point out to members that part 4 singles out one business within our council area, where it says already receive rate relief under other council policies. There's only one.
I would seek to amend the motion, and it would be to delete item 4. I would support that if we deleted item 4 and just had the 1, 2, 3. I think with people reading that resolution there may get false expectations of what what their current position is. So I'd rather leave that one off. So I'm not sure whether the Councillor Anderson would accept that.
Yeah, look, Councillor Whipper, I understand that. I find the Mayor's comments a little bit unusual. I accept that he's made a point. I'm unaware of how many businesses, well, I'm aware of it now, but I certainly was unaware of how many businesses in fact did receive that investment attraction allowance. So I wasn't pinpointing a particular business in that motion, of course not. I was just concerned of double dipping. So whereas other businesses are quite well aware of people, what people get and what people don't. It's just very small.
Yeah. Can I just say there? Well, I mean, there was an idea to rate relief for new businesses to help them get started. So I think that was the point that perhaps the Mayor was making.
Oh no, quite clear that he pointed out it was only one business that received it. I don't think that was misunderstood by anybody. But having said that, look, I agree. Yeah, I can take that. I accept that amendment.
Okay.
So with the leave of the meeting, if the mover's comfortable with that, Councillor Reynolds as seconder, are you happy to amend the motion to move parts 1, 2 and 3?
I'm happy to do that. That was the whole idea of a second, to see what the move was, and that apparently looks like it. So I'm happy to do that, yes.
Are there any members who are not comfortable with providing leave of the meeting to amend the motion as such, mover and seconder? Okay. So we've now got the motion moved, Councillor Anderson, second, Councillor Reynolds, parts 1, 2 and 3. Is there any other comment, questions or discussion?
Yeah, I'm not really comfortable with this. We've been through this process. We've done it the correct way. We've had our meetings. We've discussed the zero rate rise ad nauseum, and we're all in agreement with that. However, this has got to go to council. You should be preempting that at all.
Thank you.
If I can speak, I think also that the 3 parts that are left in there, we've discussed in the budget workshops, and we've already agreed that we're going to look for an average zero rate increase, and also restricting the loans. So we've already done what these motions are talking about.
Yeah, fair comment.
Well, in support of that, we have not made a motion in respect of reducing loans. We've talked about it. This is officialising the fact of what we're agreeing on. So basically, yes, we are in agreement. For formal motion that identifies that agreement from council in those directions for those three parts. Formalising that agreement.
Does anyone who hasn't spoken wish to speak to the motion? We will call out Councillor Anderson speaking in closing. Then the motion has been moved and seconded. Councillor Anderson, second Councillor. Move Councillor Anderson, second Councillor Reynolds, and then within the leave of the meeting to amend removal of part 4. So we're looking at parts 1, 2 and 3. Can we have if you go to your participants tab on your screen, there's an opportunity to vote.
Okay, so we good. Is that where on participants, is it?
Yeah. No, I haven't got a touch screen.
Where about?
So if you go into that, there's a yes, no.
Down the bottom.
Yeah.
I can't see.
Stand up.
Yeah, I will stand up. I'm not for it.
No, I mean, can you find the button?
I can't.
Just touch the top of your screen, Greg, and it will come up.
Perhaps touch participants.
Participants.
Yeah,
Participants.
and then touch that.
Down the bottom, it's yes or no.
Ah, I see it. Yep.
I'm not sure where it shows up though. I'm not seeing it.
How do you do a no?
Just hit the X down the bottom. X no.
Ah, I see.
Okay,
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, that's carried. Thank you.
Amazing stuff.
Notice of motion. So item 15, the confidential matter is next. Thank you. So considered in relation to is information the disclosure of which would involve the unreasonable disclosure in the personal affairs of a person, that the meeting be conducted in a place open to the public has been outweighed. Is that resolution to go into camera? Is someone happy to move that, please?
Yeah, Hipwell.
Councillor Hipwell, Councillor Reynolds. Anyone not happy with that? Thank you very much. Okay, the next ordinary meeting of the council will be held on 16th of June. We would expect that that will still be electronic. So again, thank you very much for your attendance and input tonight. And we've got consultation sessions relating to our budget coming up between now and our next meeting. Obviously, the Zoom session, hopefully we can put members in, but it would be nice to know that there's some community involvement in that. So please do make community members aware of that opportunity. And we've got delegates coming up here soon.
Can I say one thing, Peter? Before everyone goes, I'm just putting a suggestion up that council plans for some, official opening processes for some of these major projects that we're doing, and get the relevant funding minister or whomever to come and do those things, because they've obviously given us a lot of money. We've spent a lot of money. And I think it's an opportunity for them to get their photo in the paper as they normally love. I know the COVID stuff is a bit of a problem, but I think we need to move on, getting some of those representations and openings, for want of a better word, or launch or whatever. Play the game for the Pollies, but also get us some, reasonable good community feedback to say we've been involved in this and managed it and done it. It's a normal kit and caboodle, but not sure what everyone else thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for your information, Councillor Anderson, I've already put that a suggestion into the CEO in relation to the Hawker Gym, that an invitation be extended to Senator Matt, well, ex-Senator now, he's just Matt Canavan, the MP, to come down and open that in the light of he was the one that was involved with the budgets, the grants at that time. So yes, I agree with all.
To come to Hawker though.
He might do. You never know.
Yeah. New
And we
security.
are anticipating that there'll be a public launch date for the silo art stuff as well when things settle down. So no, that's appropriate. If we aren't giving them recognition and pats on the back for the money they give us, they're less likely to throw it at us. So
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Peter,
Oh,
Peter,
Sorry.
Peter, sorry, go.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Eric, you'll deal with that and look at the major project and get back to us.
Yep.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
It's
Sorry,
it's
John.
definitely a part of
Yeah,
the plan.
sorry. Yeah, thanks. If I may, I just ask the CEO a question about the magic. Obviously, I would consider that you're the most qualified individual to critique the performance of that system. Is there anything in there that you think you would add a value to it, or would you massage it along at a certain pace? Or can I just get a quick comment from you about it?
Yes, definitely, Councillor. The program is significantly better than what we're currently using. There's a number of elements that are significantly better, including records, the actual customer requests module in particular, where that we can link tasks, etc., compared to our current Excel spreadsheet, which has no auditing capacity, and someone could just delete a line eventually, or it could just disappear. There's significant benefits in that. The budgeting module I've actually used at previous organisations, and as mentioned, there's about 200 councils that use that. That's a significant benefit for us to be able to do that and to project out and start doing monthly budgets, things like that, and that will certainly help with some of those cost-saving processes that we're going to undertake. There are a significant number of benefits. The difficulty always is with the new program is the amount of staff training and the setup process that you're going to take is very stressful on staff. And it's going to take a lot of work for staff to ensure that they're fully up to date, understand what's happening in that system. And sometimes unfortunately, a complex system with a lot of widgets and things like that actually is harder for people to use because of the fact it's more complex. Now, I don't believe this program is too complex, but the more complex it is to actually train people into those roles. And because of the fact that the Flinders Ranges Council generally recruits people not from local government but from the community, which is a great thing, you don't get people that actually have that skill set coming in because they've used the program before, etc. So you're having to train them up from a layman on the street that might have used Moab or another program into this very specific and unique program. Now, I don't see that as a major issue. We'll get across that, and all councils that have that need to deal with it. But those are the risks. There's a number of also, for example, the cloud-based software, in terms of actually not having on-prem servers that are hosting all of our important information and the backup processes being not necessarily as rigid as AWS, there's a lot less risk for council in having it in AWS as well, and the ability to actually access it from other locations, things like that. So look, the list of benefits is very long. The complexity and the need to actually go through a really good transition process is going to have an effect on staff over a period of time, and it's going to be a lot of work, and that's probably the biggest risk for us. In the audit meeting, that was identified by our council auditors as well as an issue. It's just the amount of work and staff.
Okay, well, thanks. And on that note, because can you make sure that, and I'm sure the software would be able to do it, is to be able to pick for threat forecasting. The machinery should be able to look at something and ping it as a potential threat down the track a bit, or in a year or 2 years or 3 years. Is that something that he was talking about?
Through Mr. Chair, obviously the data used and the budgeting in the actual program will allow us to do better long-term financial threats to council long-term financial sustainability with respect to obviously the adoption of the annual budget as well as the projection for asset renewals, etc. So yes, with respect to that there is, but the majority of council's risk management processes will be outside of the system. So a risk register, risk policy, risk procedure, and obviously our work with health and safety, corrective actions.
Yeah, well, I think in my language, a threat is a thing before a risk. So it's an early warning system for a risk. And once you got the risk, you got to mitigate it. But if you handle the threat first, then you don't have the risk, more likely. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks very much.
Yeah, Eric, just on that, on the same thing. So the data transfer from our old system to the new system, are the company managing that, or are we doing that internally?
No, they do that. They do all of that. So
And
they will actually.
Yep, no, that's fine, no worries. The training cost for staff, is that included in any of this, or we have to just, that's
No.
not taken out? Yep.
So the initial training is included.
Yeah, no worries.
For the initial group of staff, it's all included.
Yeah, and the 170, what's the maintenance costs over the every year for this?
$29,000.
29?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is comparable to pretty much all the other systems. It was actually reasonably affordable compared to some of the other systems, which range from processing around
yeah,
there.
that's right. It's coming back to me now. No, thanks for that. Beauty.
Okay.
Cool. All right, thanks, guys.
Mr. Wolford, call meeting closed. Thank you for your attendance and input.
Okay. Good night, all. Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good night, all.
Say good night, Dick.
Good night, Dick.
Members.